Good morning. It is Wednesday, August 21st, 2024. I can't really believe that. We're still in the month of Av. I'll talk about that in a hot minute. We're reading A Pock-Faced Beauty from Candle, Feather, Wooden Spoon by Rabbi Zoe Klein. And it's a true story. So we're still in the month of Av. Elul is the month before High Holy Days, and High Holy Days are late. So I'll just get in, a couple of commercials. If you haven't made your community commitment, there's still time. You can get, obviously, reserve your High Holy Day tickets. But I have a couple of interesting things coming up. Oh, here comes Alice. September 15th, we have a block at North Light to see Lovers of the Bits, which is based on on Marc Chagall. I don't know what that means, but it looks good. The tickets are $50 a piece. You have to go through Macomb and
What's the date?
the 15th of September. Oh. And then the next week is Scholar in Residence with Rabbi Taylor. And then, we start the whole year again. So it's great to see everybody at home and here. I still haven't picked out the next book, and I have one more story to read in here, which I'll keep telling you about. And I picked the two true stories, and I went back and listened to most of what when I was interviewing Rabbi Klein. And so the true stories just have a little bit more for us to hang our hat on. And I don't know why. Now that I look through it with different eyes, it is definitely like for young adults and burgeoning. Right?
Young
young. I listen. I don't know how. This is about mitzvah girl. I don't know how our Benot mitzvah would take it here. I'm not sure what they would bring to the story. Except that the whole thing about the makeup. For me, coming to at Lakeside, I used to go to all of them, and I made a little speech. And things haven't changed that much. That they're really for puts. I mean, they don't look like anything they look like normally
in real life.
Same with the shoes.
Oh, the shoes I
How
can't stand.
about the length of the skirts?
Oh, Grandma, you sounding old.
Wait, it's not the length of the skirts, it's how tight it is. I once had, these, and the mom.
The moms.
It's always the mom.
The
The mom and the two girls.
that you could see.
I don't know, they painted it on, I'm not sure, and I'm the one who gets the complaints afterwards. How can you let them, wear that, and I'm like, so I don't do that, I did though, I'm gonna bring it up.
No, that's funny that you say that.
Because.
I taught high school all these years. And and everything got shorter and the midriff got higher and the girls complained about being objectified. And the irony of the whole thing, but it made no difference. For some reason, they thought this is what the guys wanted to see. I don't know if it was as much, this is my identity and I want to, be this way, or they were trying to entice, so.
Yeah, I don't think about mitzvah child is trying to entice. I think.
Disagree.
Oh, I
Okay.
disagree.
Okay, I think it's the way we wanna portray ourselves, how we see ourselves as not being seen or ugly or fat. And we wanna when everyone is looking at us, make ourselves over the top. I think it's more psychological than anything else.
No, I think a lot of these girls just wanted to fit in.
Yes.
They want
if
their friends.
They want to do what their friends do, they go online.
Well, that's what kids that age. Have always
They
wanted.
go online.
Didn't
they
we?
see what they're wearing their Nike white high tops.
Thank God. I
That-
mean,
but
listen,
the skirt-
Cola Cabot to this, to Lexi, she wanted to wear Doc Martens, because I think in most services, the bar bat mitzvah holds the Torah. So when they're tottering on those heels, I would just hold my breath. So I, I say high tops, Doc Martens, that's fantastic. I did look up, because I thought, obviously what the great grandma did, when she, showed Lexi's, great grandmother, and she had chickenpox, and she said it was smallpox. So,
That was very clever.
so clever, so clever. Let's see,
I just saw on Instagram, right after I had read that,
yeah,
where a girl's in a taxi.
this
And-
is smallpox.
Yeah, okay, so the girl's in a taxi and the driver says, "Is there a man in your life?" And she says, "I'm a man." And he shuts up. Right after I read this.
That's great. This is chickenpox. That's chickenpox, so you can see how it could be confused. Now, the other thing that I will say, as your public service announcement, all of us in this room were exposed to chickenpox, and we may have had it. Right, and then if you've had it, that means you can have shingles.
Right.
And
And I've had that twice.
taking my, oh yeah, you can turn it off. It was, it's right there. You just have to turn the power off. It's all, the button all the way to the right.
In here.
Yeah. No, on the air conditioner.
Oh.
Power button. Oh, you can try that. But I took my mom to her internist, and he said, "Did you get the COVID vaccine?" She's like, "No," and he's like, "Eh." But the shingles vaccine,
Yes.
he said,
Yes.
is 90% effective.
Yes.
So ladies, if you haven't gotten it, it's a 2-shot thing. I ran out to get it, and it's interesting because my daughter had chickenpox. She's 36 in 2 days. And my little son, who's 28, I think he had the vaccine. So I think there'll be a generation who won't get shingles. Right?
Oh, maybe. I've had shingles twice.
It's very painful.
Wait, did you have the vaccine?
No,
Okay.
but I will tell you, no, I did not have a lot of pain. I had itching.
Yeah.
I thought the itching would drive me out of my mind. Yes,
Yeah.
but I didn't have a lot of pain. In fact, I went to the doctor because I thought I had something else with my skin. He took one look and he said, "You got shingles." But, and then what happens when you've had it, you have to wait to get the shot.
Oh,
So
yeah, wait. Okay. So, tell me what else, stood out to you with this story? Anybody online here? Merle. Wait. And go.
I thought it was ironic that this woman who was pockmarked was a makeup artist and that she had never tried to go to a dermatologist to get or plastic surgeon to get dermabrasion or anything because of the story, the history of how she got this way. And it was such a great story. And right now I'm reading the book, The Goddess of Warsaw by Lisa Barr.
Right, that's for next month's book group. Great commercial, Merle.
It's a really, really fascinating book.
Goddess of Warsaw by Lisa Barr. I'll put it up on the screen.
Really fascinating story about Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto who really helped save Jews in many different ways. They did this. And you realize even the smallest gesture, like what this woman did in the story, can save people. There's so much psychology behind the gesture, and it worked. So it's great. I thought it was a very good story, but just the irony that she never even tried.
The Goddess of Warsaw.
Summarize what she said.
That she didn't even, here she's a makeup artist, but she didn't try to get,
Dermabrasion.
I would say to that, Merle, is I don't think that generation knows about that. Susan then Judy. Real loud.
Well, one of the things that I liked about that was she was accepting who she was
Yes.
and not trying to be phony in any way at all. And I really liked that. And it just reminded me of when quite many years ago, I decided to stop coloring my hair because I was at a luncheon with, at a table with 10 people. The most beautiful woman at the table had white hair. And I thought to myself, and everyone else had their hair dyed. And I thought, wow, she is, and then I came home and I said to my husband, that's it. No more hair color. And my daughter, my youngest daughter, who actually she's not so young anymore, she's 57. But
Your baby.
my baby said to me, Mom, there's wisdom and beauty in gray hair and wrinkles. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like, don't have a facelift, don't dye your hair,
Yeah.
just be who you are. And I thought about that
Yeah.
when I read this book.
Judy then Elaine.
What I loved about the story is respecting and recognizing your grandparents.
Mhm.
I have a unique situation because my daughter's a widow and I take care of my grandchildren far more than most people do. But I love and I am aware of the importance of the older generations, because in our family, it was sacrosanct. Oh my goodness. Our grandparents, our great-grandparents, my great-grandfather lived to be 103.
Wow.
And oh, he was everything.
You have
So,
good genes.
I loved that she recognized her grandparents in a different way.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Elaine. And
I
then
think-
Alice.
I think I like the story a lot. It was very poignant. I think it's very hard for young people to accept who they are. And I think maybe as we get older, and I think for women, it's very, very hard. Going back to symbolically coloring your hair. Okay, I think we try to cover up who we are. And I'm not picking on anybody who colors their hair, but I really am not. Some of my best friends color their hair. All right, so, but I think we as women have to portray a certain togetherness. And I think we do that with makeup. We do that with our clothes. We costume ourselves constantly. And I think it's a pressure that maybe in 100 years will be gone. Maybe.
How do you think it's gonna be gone?
And 100
Well,
years, a lot of people.
I think maybe we'll all wear uniforms. Or-
I bet that, yeah, 100 years ago, they probably said that about now.
Right, okay, but I think that we put too much pressure on ourselves on super unnecessary things. And I think as little children, and I think that's one of the reasons that the bar mitzvah girls wear all of this ridiculous clothes. And we go on all of these ridiculous diets and stuff just because we have to fit in.
Well, okay, I have Alice, Abby, then Lynn. Alice. Wait.
Can't hear
All
it.
right, go.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. This goes a little bit to what Lynn was talking about the high school students, you know, fitting in with each other. I grew up really in the 60s. I was in college at the end of the 60s. And it was definitely a time of, you know, hippies, and people didn't really wear makeup, and everything was natural. And I know people have changed, but I've kind of stayed the same. I've never been I mean, I used to put a little makeup on. Now I don't put any makeup on. I haven't for years. And I think it was my peers. That's what my peers were like when I was growing up. And that's what's stuck with me. And I think that's the case with a lot of people. It's like whatever you grow up with, whatever the standard is, at that time, you kind of, a lot of people at least keep with that because that's what you're used to. That's all.
Debbie? Debbie? I'm gonna unmute you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So much depends upon where you are at the time. First of all, I thought this bat mitzvah girl was like
Debbie,
an,
can you go closer to a microphone? We're having a hard time. That's on the highest it'll go.
can you hear me now?
I know.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. I thought this bat mitzvah girl was what I would consider like an old soul. I mean, I think she had a certain maturity beyond her years. And also, I think it's easier to relate to maybe a generation that's more removed than your parents. I think you're so sensitive to your parents and what they do. And I vividly remember when I was in third grade and I had a conference, I guess. It must have been maybe the day after a parent teacher conference. And my third grade teacher said to me, "Why doesn't your mother wear eyeshadow?" You know what eyeshadow even was?
Teacher said that to her.
Between my two parents, there was only one eye that had vision, and my mother was deformed because from an unrelated surgery, one eye was smaller. I wasn't aware of that or paid attention to it until other people noticed so then I became a little bit more conscious about it. She was self-conscious about it and certainly didn't try to wear makeup or anything like that. But I think that we pick up vibes from other people, and I think it's a whole process in terms our peers for so long are so important to us and their judgments or what we perceive as their judgments. So I really credit this young lady being receptive to what her grandmother says and honoring it.
So, she said that she credits this young, bat mitzvah girl for listening to her grandmother, not her peers, because we all know at that age, listening to peers is, the be all and end all. All right, Lynn and then Terry.
Okay, I think we
Real life.
diverted from the central message of the story.
Okay.
I don't think it's about makeup. I think what the story is about is empathy.
Yes.
And no matter who dyes her hair or doesn't, who wears makeup, who doesn't, people do things for themselves.
Yes.
I do things for myself. I'm looking at the mirror and saying,
Ugh,
I
I
don't
hate the
like
way
this
it looks.
sunspot. So that was central to the convention last night. This idea of empathy and that we've lost it in our society and not understanding why people do things or accepting and not being so judgmental. So to me, I see, and I am judgmental when I see actors and actresses who no longer look like themselves because they pumped up their faces with the Botox. And I'm watching this series, and the lead actress came on the next episode, and Gary said, "Who is she?" I said, "That's the same actress that was the week before."
Oh, man.
And for some reason, they may be doing it because they want to get parts.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get a part. I just want to look nice for me in my. So I think the fact that the empathy, and that is my students had the hardest time differentiating between empathy and sympathy. It's so hard to feel.
We talked about that 2 weeks ago.
Very hard to feel with someone, not for someone. And
It's an
sometimes you
important
can't feel
distinction.
with someone because you haven't experienced what they had. So there, as Alice said last week, there is nothing, I came to agree with you, Alice. There's nothing wrong with saying, I'm sorry for your loss, especially if you haven't experienced that loss. I'm not sure I like that pat answer, but to me, this story was all about elevating our emotions to the point of actually understand why do these girls dress the way they do? What is it? And why we don't like it. It's not our role to, scorn them.
One of the things we're missing here is we keep calling her grandmother. She was her
Great
grandmother.
Grandmother,
And
yeah.
the skip of the generation,
That's true.
I thought, was very interesting,
I love that.
that she was listening to her great-grandmother.
I think they listen more to the grandparents than they do sometimes to the parents.
It depends
It
on.
depends on the
parents.
relationship.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it does, but I think if you have a good relationship, the kids will listen to you more than the parents, because the parents are so busy trying to mold their kids.
I think if the parent, has a good relationship with their parent, then the child has the same relationship.
Yeah, maybe, okay.
That's a
Right.
Good point.
Yeah,
Right, from generation to
Right.
generation.
I mean, I also think, and then we're gonna get to Terry and then Elaine again. You know, I have grandkids and the other grandparents are about 10 years older than us. And we're just a little more, probably a little more easygoing and, you know, my granddaughter, I let her come in, you know, when I'm naked and, you know, she's just asking around or if she sees me putting on makeup, I say, you wanna put some makeup on too? And, you know, she does all of that. So I think, you know, even at her age, she can differentiate, she's 4, you know, what this grandma does and what this Safta does, and she bases it on it. All right, Terry, and then Elaine again.
Well, first of all, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. I came in a little late, so I don't know if you covered this. First of all, my version of the book I have online from Apple Books, and do you all have that or no?
Yeah, you went out. Do we have what?
Question.
What version of the book?
It's this one.
This guy.
Yes, it's probably.
Very different.
Question. Oh, if you
Mine is Kindle.
It's.
Okay. I,
Yeah, I mean, it's a brand spanking new book.
The copyright is 2023.
Yeah.
It's.
So Terry, what's your question?
Is she?
No.
No.
Character.
Oh.
Terry, you're frozen. Can you put your question in the chat?
Am I still frozen?
Yeah.
No, now.
No, no, I can hear.
Okay,
Videos frozen.
your video's frozen.
All right.
you're hearing a lot.
Ask the question.
All right.
Do the Isbin?
No.
Oh, all right.
All right, you're going in and out. Terry, if you can put it in the chat, then I'll bring it up. Elaine.
Okay, I agree with Lynn about empathy and what we think. My point was not so much on makeup. My point is how we see each other or we see ourselves. And not to disagree with Lynn, which is one of my habits that I do, okay?
I love it. I love
Okay.
it. Bring it on.
I think when you say, I'm doing
I
it.
like that we know each other and you know what's happening
Well, it's
here.
a friendly argument, right, Lynn?
I don't know what it is.
Okay, well, let's just assume it's a friendly argument.
Okay, okay.
I think when we say, I'm doing it for myself, that we're not being 100% honest because we're doing it how we want the world to see us. And I think we are way too concerned. And I am very victim of that, of how I am perceived and how the world sees me. Okay.
Can I respond?
Yes.
I think there is an element of truth to that. You want to look your best or not. The kids sometimes don't care. In fact, they don't want to look their best in a statement, but I want to say one thing. As a parent, and I've been seeing this more and more, I keep telling my friends, you know, we raise them to be independent and they fly off and then we're upset. So now in the dress style is their chance to be rebellious or they're a new identity or trying out a new identity, and we get upset. So the question is, what do we want? Do we want them to be independent and explore themselves? This age of high school is a testing of values.
Yes.
And if it's a rebellion against their parents or trying to fit in with a certain group that they probably shouldn't be in the first place, or whatever it is, clothes really are important in making a statement about who you are. And so I had that conflict when I was teaching, you know, do I say anything or let them explore who they are? So I'm not sure. I think this child is having that conflict.
I think we're good. Judy.
Page 140, it talks about the fact that she, at the bottom of the page, she thought about her own quirks and imperfections, the things that made her real and unique, and not some two-dimensional Photoshop cardboard cutout. I think it's unusual for the prefrontal lobe to have formed that well.
Agree.
Sorry, but
I agreed with the way this was written.
yeah, I agree with the way it was
Yeah.
written, but it is unusual. I don't, of all, certainly not my grandchildren. The prefrontal lobe just has to get there.
Right.
And I don't know that it gets there that early for most people, for most kids.
But it's there. I disagree. It really depends on the child.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, how, self-aware they are, how well-read they are, how observant they are. And I
But
think,
that indicates that their brain has moved on. It has progressed. And I'm not sure, Lynn, you know these kids better than
Well, I agree with Joy. I mean, it depends on the maturity of the kid. I've had kids in my advanced classes, some were really advanced and some were not so advanced, intellectually versus emotionally. You know, IQ and EQ are
Well, I think this is an emotional.
this is an emotional
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I'm not sure how many kids are in touch with their emotions,
Yeah.
but I have a feeling this girl is testing that. I mean, I
Yeah,
think she's,
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
so I guess we have
But
to
I
take.
think that's
her-
unusual from my perspective.
I agree, but I think it was possible.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you.
And, I do not have granddaughters. I have 3 grandsons. And my oldest grandson, I think it was in 5th grade, decided he was only going to wear, first it started out with collared shirts. He was never going to wear a t-shirt to school. First, he was only going to wear a collared shirt with buttons because it made him feel better.
Like his father.
Then he started wearing sport coats and ties to
Oh,
school
wow.
every single day. And he was criticized and made fun of, and he said, I don't care. If I dress the part, I will be a better student and
Wow.
better, and it makes me feel better.
How old is he now?
18.
And does he still dress that way?
No,
No.
he still, it was very interesting.
Oh,
He was over Sunday with his family and he wore a t-shirt. And I looked at him and I said, Gabby, I have never seen you in a t-shirt. He said, Zach gave it to me, so his younger brother, he said, so I decided I'd wear it. But it's the first time I've seen him in a t-shirt. But he's going to Israel on his gap year.
Good.
And he will be wearing t-shirts.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm
They
sure.
don't wear sport coats ever.
No, and
Or
I
collared
asked him,
shirts.
I said, are you gonna pack a sport coat at all? He said, no, I've been emailing and I've been Googling and I've been told, no, I don't need one.
You know, she made me, can I?
Yeah, go
Is
ahead.
anyone waiting?
No, no one's waiting.
Um.
Oh, wait, Merle and
Merle,
then,
go ahead.
oh, wait, Merle and then Lynn.
Okay, I thought the girl was really mature beyond her years, but I remember 24 years ago, it was in the year 2000. I remember this because it was so unusual. I went to two different weddings, and in one wedding, it was a very formal wedding. The groom and all the groomsmen wore tuxedos with gym shoes.
Oh.
And all of them, that was their little rebellion. And at the other wedding, the bride wore 3-inch heels when she walked down the aisle with the groom, and then later changed into lace trimmed gym shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were beautiful gym shoes. But she was able to dance and feel comfortable for the rest of the wedding. So this kind of thing has always been there. But this thing about the Doc Martens, that's so great. They weren't even trimmed with anything. There's no lace on them. I thought she was really wise beyond her years. I thought that was so clever of her to do.
Let her do it, and her
Yeah.
grandmother and her great grandmother.
So I'm gonna get into a tangential area, which I think may fit here. And that is trying on a different gender
Oh,
at this age. And I just thought of this as you were talking, trying on clothes, trying on hairstyles, trying on makeup, trying on a different gender. And I've seen several instances of this where the person is experimenting with who or what she is and coming back to the original gender. Maybe not.
maybe not.
But I think this is also allowing the child to explore, and some parents are just absolutely panicking at
Yeah,
this
yeah.
whole idea.
Sandy. Go ahead.
Here, my grandson got married in New York, and his bride is rather short. She was, I would say, pretty well rounded, maybe chubby. She was wearing a strapless white satin gown, and she wore white gym shoes. And that's the way they do in New York. We saw other brides too. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. But and we were told that we could do the same thing. As guests, we were told before the wedding that she was going to be wearing this and that we could do the same thing. So I didn't wear white gym shoes, but I did wear low-heeled shoes to the wedding because the wedding took place in 3 different places. They were married at City Hall. Then they had a beautiful thing in the park in New York with champagne and donuts and all kinds of stuff. And then a beautiful dinner at a restaurant with dancing afterwards. But she wore these white gym shoes with this satin gown.
Yeah, I think that good for her. She was comfortable the whole time. Elaine?
One of my granddaughters got married in Mexico, and I wore rhinestone gym shoes, and I could walk the whole night. And I think, again, getting back to my point, what difference does it make what's on your feet? We are so judgmental and so critical of what everyone does. In the overall of what's going on, I don't want to be global. What the hell does it matter? And when we start to think like that, I think we will have more empathy. And be better people.
So, on the empathy track, I've shared before that my middle son is on the spectrum, and in junior high, I don't know why they were teaching them what a white lie was. And of course, he's like, that's a lie. What do you mean a white lie? And they taught him a white lie is when the bride says, "How do you look?" You say beautiful. And 15 years later, whenever he sees a bride, he's like, "You look beautiful." imagine 95% of the time. They look beautiful. But, you know, that, did it teach him empathy? At least he knows not to say, you know. What is she wearing? What are those shoes? Or something like that. So I do think we, you know, the whole, you know, the bride thing and that. I see Judy and then
Oh,
Alice.
no, I was wiping my.
All right, Alice.
Yeah, looking at the questions
Yes.
that, after the story, I feel like they focus on what you look like.
Mhm.
But I agree with Lynn that I feel like this story is more about identity. And of course, you know, young people that are 12 turning 13, they're exploring what is their identity, not just what they look like. It might be manifested in what, you know, what they wear and what they do with their hair and stuff like that. But I feel like there's a deeper thing going on, that it's more what am I? Besides gender, I mean, that's one aspect of it, but then just the whole spectrum of what are you? You know, what am I?
At camp, I've worked with the older kids, and you know, they're going into high school and their parents aren't there. So this is time for them to try on a different hat. And I've seen, especially in middle school, a lot of the girls go by boy names. Now, everyone looks the same. You're in shorts and a t-shirt, so you can't really tell. And some of these girls, you know, wear very, on Shabbat, we get dressed up, you know, they'll wear very frilly dresses. I've also seen a whole unit of boys borrow, of course, girls' dresses on Shabbat, and they all come in girls' dresses. Now, I'm sure that's to get a rise out of, you know, the adults at camp, and we're all like, oh, great. Been there, done that. You know, if it's cold on that Friday night, sometimes it's really hot. But it's very interesting to see how they play with these genders. And look, some of them may be gay, some of them may be non-binary, and sometimes I think that camp is a safe place, and this is somewhere they can look at what's happening and try things on for themselves. However, the kids who really know that they're gay, and my girlfriend and I, you know, no girl, they go by a boy's name. They never say, I want to be a lesbian. I'm like, we're the lesbians, just say, you know, and because I also think in middle school, it's easier to be a boy. It's much easier to be a boy. And pardon?
I have no doubt about that.
So, and I don't think they have as much of, you shouldn't wear that, you're gonna, you know, attract bad attention and that type of thing about the clothes that they're wearing. But I do think that it's a fascinating thing, and something that I've seen. I've been there, you know, 35 years. It's definitely a change. And for them, they all go by their pronouns. The counselors go by their pronouns, and they can call someone they, them. And it's very hard for me because of the grammatical, you know what I mean?
Because
They
it's
are,
plural.
what?
Because they and them is plural.
Exactly, yes. But
It's
for
more than
them,
one person.
it's just.
They need to find another pen.
Yeah, I would like that. All right, Sue, did you have your hand up? And then,
I
but
did. God, it was my senior moment. What were you just talking about? Just
non-binary, not,
Oh,
you know, gender, changing their names.
So I have a granddaughter who, when she was 8, 9 years old, she would only wear boys' clothes. She has a brother who's a year and a half older than she is, and she only wanted to wear what he was wearing. And she absolutely would not put on a dress, and she wouldn't wear pink, nothing feminine. But then she changed. you know, she started wearing dresses and and to this day, I'm not sure she knows who she is,
Interesting.
but, and she's 18 now,
Mhm.
but she's, you know, she's smart and a good student and everything, but
You can dress unisex today and no one would say
But she
anything.
dresses femininely, but
Mhm.
actually, she's got other problems, so she pretty well wants to hide her body.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know.
It's hard to watch sometimes.
It's hard to grow up.
Hard to grow up.
Well, I'm gonna piggyback on that.
Piggyback.
On page 140, the great grandmother says, "The perfect light comes from inside. Now go shine."
Yeah.
So that inside is the hardest thing to work on. The
Right.
outside is easy to work on. And so a lot of these kids who are testing their values, and I did a values auction with the kids before we began Huck Finn, and had them bid on items that correlated with values. And they had a hard time with that. I mean, if you ask a high school kid, what are your values? They don't even know what a value is, some of them.
Right.
So this is the whole age of testing their values, which is really hard. And you know what? It's not a change. It's an evolution. She's not changing. She's testing out what feels comfortable for her. And some of us don't get there until our 30s, you know, or it's
Yes,
forever,
She's-
forever, forever.
Right, and she's growing.
And
Her mind
absolutely,
and her thoughts are
absolutely.
growing.
Absolutely, and I think a perfect light, I think that's being optimistic. Do we
Yeah.
ever reach perfection? In terms of our values, we slip a lot, you know? And
Then they
and
change.
they change. They do change
Mhm.
and you wouldn't think they would at this stage.
Right, but they do.
But they do. And so, this grandmother has great advice, except the child is still in a stage of not knowing who she is, but thinking she knows who she is. So she's putting on her Doc Martens and she's saying, "This is who I am right now." And I know a couple of kids who went through this gender questioning and came out on the other side.
Right.
So
They
you
do.
know, I think being patient is the hardest thing when you're a parent. Parenting to me was the hardest job.
Oh, it's the
I've done.
hardest.
Let me tell you a funny story about this gender thing.
Very
Because-
loud.
Okay, somebody was talking about, someone who said they were a woman. I can't, in the beginning. My husband and I had a place in Arizona and we went to a demonstration. Trump was elected and, you know, all this business. And it was mostly, like a not pro-life, but pro-choice demonstration. And there was a group of people that were very anti-abortion and all this stuff, and they were marching around and everything. A man standing next to me, and I said, "This is really cute. Look at all these men protesting abortion when none of them have ever had a baby. They don't know what it's
No,
like."
they don't.
And this guy said to me, "Well, I can have a baby."
Was it trans man?
He had a beard, had I said, and I looked at him,
It was your lucky
said-
day.
Yeah.
he says, "I was born a woman."
Mm.
And
Oh, that's more than a million.
Yeah,
And
I'm sure he took great delight in telling you that.
but
You should have been in the cab with the parents.
That,
I was, I mean, that was dumbfounded.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? I said
you
nothing.
can't say anything.
I didn't say,
Right.
I just said, "Oh, I hope you're happy."
Good for you. Abby, then Merle. Abby, go ahead.
The term came about as being gender fluid. And we have a niece nephew, I guess he now was she, but I just think the term fluidity can go, can go through a lot of different things. I think in terms of where we are, in terms of our values, I can only speak for myself, are fluid. I mean, I may not be the same person now that I was maybe 8 years ago. I may be different tomorrow. And when I take any of those tests, like the Enneagram is one that I had taken, and some of the other value types of tests, I can, depending on my mood that day, I might answer one way, I might answer another day. So I'm learning to be respectful for myself. I'm not putting myself into a little niche, and I hopefully am learning to be respectful of somebody else in terms of where they are at that particular moment, and trying to appreciate people as they are that day, as well as maybe not hold grudges for what I thought they meant when they said something or whatever. So I just like the concept of being fluid and accepting.
Yeah, I think being fluid and accepting people for where they are, which is what suited. I have Merle, then Sue. Real loud.
Okay, I remember when one of my daughters, and this was Donna, Lynn would know her. She's an artist, and when she was at Solel during religious school on Sunday, I guess they had to draw a picture of something they valued. And she drew a picture of a person on a tightrope with absolutely no safety net underneath.
Ooh.
She said, "I value life." I thought that was a very touching, poignant story about her what she valued above everything, and it was life itself. And I thought that was very nice for a teenager to do that. But the other thing was, at the end of this story, there was a question about, do you have any scars, internal or external, that
Yes.
you're proud of? And I thought that was a very interesting, very profound question. And I mean, I thought of something myself that came up, that I have a very, very thin scar over my eyebrow. I don't think anyone would even notice it after so many years. But I got it because I was trying to study Old Church Slavonic, a language that I was taking in graduate school that was like the language of the Bible if you're Russian, Old Church Slavonic. Anyway, I fell in the bathtub and I had to go to the hospital and get stitches over my eye. And I thought, how stupid to be studying, to be concentrating on something when you're in the shower, when you should just be concentrating on not falling in the shower. But I mean, these are things that we just have to learn. But these scars, the kind of scars that this woman had, it was about saving a whole village. But I just wondered, does anybody have any scars they want to talk about?
Scars.
Mm.
Say, raise your hand if you don't have any.
I don't know.
And then Alice.
You can all disagree with me, but I feel like we're giving too much credit to 12 and 13-year-olds for really thinking about their identity. I think they're growing and they're learning and they're making decisions. Usually they want to be like everybody else, but I don't think they're thinking of it in the intellectual terms that we are giving them. I think it's just happening. I know I think back to when I was that age. Never thought about who am I. I mean, it was just me.
I think kids are different today, and the pressures they're under, and what they see on television, the social media, what they have in their pocket. I used to do a whole thing for confirmation kids on sexuality and going into birth control. I don't need to do that. They can Google that. They don't need to see from me what any of that is. And so I think they're under just a different type of pressure today.
I think it's an emotional examination rather than an intellectual. These kids at camp who are coming home because the kids are bullying them.
Oh, right.
You know, I mean, they're feeling something there that's not right. That's a test, you know. So that person's saying, you shouldn't be mean to somebody else. That's a value judgment. So I understand what you're saying, but I think that I have to say that the previous president has former. Has poisoned the air with mocking and insulting.
Yeah.
And, the
He has
kids
no
are
empathy.
imitating that. I mean, I've never heard of kids that there's bullying going on at summer camp and kids are coming home because
yeah.
Ellen Gusson told me her granddaughter said, I'm changing my girlfriends. I'm going to another group. They're too mean. So that is a value, not, not sophisticated.
Right.
And I understand what you're saying, but I think that values they're learning at an earlier stage than we did.
Oh, there's no doubt
Absolutely.
about what they learn so much earlier
yeah.
than we ever
Yeah.
did.
Really.
Alice,
Yeah, I'm responding to Merle. So I have a scar right here. It's just like yours. Nobody would notice it. But I got it in Ireland when I was 21. My best girlfriend and I were doing a European tour, and we were very naive. She was 22. We were very, very naive young women, very. And we got into a car. We hitchhiked all around Ireland, and we got into a car with a young man, and we're driving with him. And he said, oh, I want to stop in this pub. So we stopped in a pub. Neither of us were really drinkers. I don't even think either of us had a beer. He had probably more than one. And we got back in the car with him. What?
what year was this?
This was 1970. That was the year I graduated college. We got back in the car with this man who had been drinking. And it was not with another car. It was like these really narrow, I think they were even like, what do I want to say? Not paved, unpaved roads. And we had a rollover accident. The car rolled over. Of course, no seatbelts. I was the only one that was hurt. I had this gash under my eye, and I think my shoulder was kind of impacted. Anyways, long story short, two things I learned. One is, heavy drinking, it's always bothered me. It's always bothered me after that. And also, who stopped, we were in Ireland in 1970. Who stopped to help us but a Northern Ireland couple? And they took us to the hospital, and they wrote to us later, are you okay? So, it was just like, yeah. So that's my scar story. Oh.
Alice, I thought for sure, I have a scar from my cancer and an incision because I had a full hysterectomy. So, and it's not a scar that anyone can see.
I have
Right.
one too, right
Right.
up the middle.
Not
Right.
too many people.
Right, right, no, well, yeah, all right, Arthur sees it, I suppose. He probably doesn't, anyway. And over the years, it's gotten, you can't see it as much.
Yeah.
because, it fades.
Yeah.
So, but I do think about it every once in a while. And I do want to get to, that former Prime Minister of Israel, Golda Meir, said, and she of course was not known for her beauty. Not being beautiful was the true blessing. Not being beautiful forced me to develop my inner resources. Greek philosopher, how do you say that? Epictetus said, if your choices are beautiful, so too will you be. What do you think about those statements? Elaine?
I think there was an old statement that said that, that when you're attractive, you get into your first interview easier.
Yeah.
And people are attracted to attractive people. But I also agree with with her statement that you need to, when you are not beautiful, you definitely need to cultivate resources, which can be an advantage. But as I've said all along, we don't necessarily think of it as an advantage. I mean, nowadays, we're supposed to be envious of people's mind, but we still look at someone and say, oh, aren't they beautiful? I mean, that's your very first impression.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Judy.
My father was a very handsome man. He looked like Cary Grant. And I had friends who would go crazy over him. But my father was not a nice man. He was not a good man. He was not an honorable man. And so for me, good looks were not good.
Yeah.
I seldom look at someone's face. Seldom. If I know you, I listen to your words. I look into you. I don't look at your face. I don't know what hair color you have. I don't know what color your glasses are. I don't, because I learned that looks are not important and have nothing to do with a happy life.
Well, that's unusual.
Well, it's your father.
We don't know
Yes.
that though.
You never know what's
Look,
going on.
when Trump was younger, he was
His boy, he was
handsome,
good looking,
but I'm sure he was just as evil then as
Oh,
he is
yeah.
now.
but he got in the door because he was who he was. And that is what I'm saying. I mean, we can all talk about how we want this wonderful world, but the world is the way it is. And the movie stars, the kids go online and look at all of this stuff. We spend billions of dollars on cosmetics, billions.
Lynn.
I have a short story. In one of my first teaching jobs, I walked into the room and I see this girl in the first row and I said, oh my God, is she gorgeous? And as the semester went on and I heard her talk, I
She
saw
moved all out.
she
Yeah.
was sort of not very pretty to me anymore.
Yeah.
And people would say, isn't she gorgeous? And I'd say, not really, not to me. And I feel the same way you do. But I can also accept that because I think the society we live in
that's all I'm
places a
saying.
great premium
Yeah,
on looks.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, but if you notice in more and more movies, not that attractive people are getting parts. That's true. That are
And they're
reflecting.
making pretty people not as pretty.
And they're making pretty people not as pretty and stripping down to their,
That-
core.
Right, the Oscars. They give the Oscars to Charlize Theron when she, gains
played
weight
it,
and that
yes.
ugly thing and,
Monster.
yeah, with
Monster,
my,
yes.
so
Oh,
they,
Halle
you-
Berry.
they,
Was that Halle Berry?
I don't remember.
Halle
I
Berry
think-
also got, an Oscar when she looked terrible.
Yeah,
And I think that phenomenon is also.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think I heard an interview with Diane Keaton and she said, I'm not going to, though I don't know if she's changed her mind. She's
Oh.
evolved in her values.
Yes.
Or devolved, but, she said, I am going out authentic. What does that mean? I'm not doing anything. I'm going out.
That means
you
no
know,
hair coloring, no Botox,
No, right,
all of
all
that.
of that.
No
Okay.
facelift.
No, yeah, yeah.
All of that.
It's all. Well,
Anyway.
this has given us a lot to think about. Our next story will be Abraham's return, a true story of Teshuvah. Teshuvah means, to return, to ask for forgiveness, and it'll be before the High Holy Days. And then I will try to have a book. Now I need to look at the calendar and see what it is. Yeah, September 4th, we're still good to go.
Okay.
There's also a nature walk that day, the green.
Okay.
All right.
All right, it's been great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I always learn so much, and if this is gonna be having me think about what we look like, what people think we look like. One of the questions it was, who determines who's beautiful? Who defines what is beautiful?
My husband and I have drastically different standards for beauty. I don't know if you've ever talked. to-
Yes,
I mean, someone he thinks is beautiful. I say,
Like,
I say, I think she's gorgeous. He said, no.
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't
It's really fascinating. Yeah.
it? I don't know what he's looking for. but-
He's looking for someone that looks like you.
Yes.
That's what he's. You see you. Right, do you see people who either get divorced, that's usually men, who marry women who look,
Just like their wife.
yes, just like their wives.
Exactly.
Look like, but no, it's first to wife. Oh, yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Or 10 years younger.
Yeah.
Like their wife, but 10 years younger. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
We'll see you.
Thank you.
So how did-